Okay, I came here to win. I'm coming for the title, yeah, this is the time. Your friends become your rivals, yeah, I've been on my grind. All I know is been survival, now it's my time to shine. I made it to the finals, I've been going hard, I ain't worried.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Real with Ray podcast. Please like and subscribe to the channel so you can get notifications every time we release one. Please share it with a friend, sister, brother, cousin, and let's get started with this next episode. Let's go! Welcome to Real with Ray podcast. Excited for my guest today. I have a business owner, mom, wife, nurse, all the things. My good friend, Angie Brannen. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ray. Thanks for having me.
So Angela started off talking about, well, first I want to talk about a little bit why I wanted to bring you on the show, and I want to say first how much Angie's helped my wife. Tiff was on the first episode, and a backstory, she had a forehead flap. She had skin cancer on her nose. They had to remove her forehead and or take her forehead and her scalp and cover up her nose where the skin was lost. When that happened, her nose still grew hair, and so it was part of her scalp. So she needed laser hair removal, and not only that, but a ton of other services. And just been just so wonderful and gracious to my wife, taking care of all of those needs for her. And you know, and for a while, I really thought that it was just for Tiff to go to the spa and check out Fab, and then I started going. And I feel fantastic. My guys joke with me because I get my B12 shots every week. But so first, thank you so much for all that you do for Tiff and have done for Tiff. Truly appreciate it so much.
Absolutely.
From all my heart. So, all right, tell me about yourself, Ange. So you're a mom of
Two girls.
two girls.
Yep, 16 and 13. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I started as a registered nurse. Did that for about 10 years and then went back to school to get my master's. I'm a little nervous.
A little nervous? Oh, don't be nervous. And you got a hubby?
Yep, I got my husband, Mike. We met when I was 19 years old, and he's like my biggest fan. I love him to death. But yeah, we met in college in Tampa, Florida. Working as a nurse, that's kind of where all of my dream for aesthetic love started. It's really interesting because being a nurse, I worked in a lot of different fields, labor and delivery, then I did outpatient surgery, I worked in the hospital setting. And I would always talk about how much I loved it. And it was my stepmom one day who looked at me and she said, "Do you ever think you just really love being a nurse?" Because I was like, "But I love labor and delivery. I don't know if I want to leave and do outpatient surgery, you know, or this opportunity." Then I'd go there. "Oh, I love outpatient surgery. This is awesome." Then I'd go to a rehab unit. "Wow, this is so gratifying, you know, and see these people who've had a stroke and then you're helping them do this." She goes, "Do you ever just think you really love nursing?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I think I do. You're right. I'm in the right profession."
Very cool.
So in Tampa, that's where at a surgery center, I started working alongside some of the renowned plastic surgeons doing outpatient surgery. And that's when I started really developing my love and excitement for aesthetic type medicine, seeing what a transformation it would do on people, not just outside, but how happy they would come to have one of their insecurities taken care of. I started really just loving it. And then doctors would say, you know, is Angie going to be our OR nurse today? Because I think they saw my passion. I would get the clients really excited when they were there. So that was kind of where it all started. I always had this dream, but I didn't know what to do with it. Like when you're 25 and you're a nurse and you got a baby at home, and like I don't think like, oh, this is my time. It's time to start a business and let's open up this big med spa. I just knew I loved it. I didn't know how to get there or what to do, but I just knew I loved it at that time. It's kind of where everything started.
And you've been how long have you and Mike been married now?
We've been married for 18 years.
18 years. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah, we were young. You know, I think back, I'm like, at 23, I was married with a baby. You know, I look at 23-year-olds now, and I'm like, it was definitely something I always wanted to do was be a mom. But looking back, I'm like, wow, it seems so young. Never felt young.
Your oldest is only 7 years away from being 23. Mm-hmm. That's wild to think.
Yep. I look at her now and I think, oh my gosh, I met your dad when I was 3 years older than what you are now. Actually, I was before I turned 19. So I'm like, man.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So how's it like raising teenage girls?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I think, oh my gosh, I think it's the best thing in the whole world. They're little mini yous. Even when they give that sass, I'm like, oh my gosh, that you're me. I mean, they're such great kids, but I think when, not getting frustrated too. I mean, I don't yell back at them. I tell them like, oh, there it is. There's that teenager. Bring it on, girl. And they're just like, oh. But I just think it's kind of fun to see little mini yous running around and giving you sass back and wanting to stay out too late. And I tell them, I'm sorry, you can't have any fun nowadays because you got Ring cameras and everyone's got a camera and Blink this and doorbells that chime. So their life is different. They can't sneak out or do anything kind of fun.
I'll be coming to you for advice in all my coming years with all my girls. Well, all right. So you tell me a little bit about how you got in. You were already doing the nursing. You started your love for the aesthetic part of nursing in the medical field. Tell me about how did it start first you guys came back to Michigan at some point.
Yep. That was when my daughter was getting ready to start kindergarten. And basically, Mike always wanted to come back. He's a Florida boy, but he wanted to come live here from the first time we visited. He's
Really?
like, I love it. I would move that back there in a second. He never met his dad. He was raised by his grandpa, who is his father, but he didn't go out and go fishing and hunting. My dad and my brother took him to do some of those manly things, and he loved it so much. So he wanted to move back. And I thought, once you leave, you're like, nah, I'm never going back to my little town where I grew up. But when we started looking at schools for my daughter to start kindergarten, it got kind of scary because I'm like, dang, this is our option. And private school wasn't an option for us at that time. Like, we're young, and there was just public schools in the system that we were in. It wasn't a great. It opened my eyes to, okay, well, maybe let's look back at going home. I worked at that surgery center. I looked at all their locations. There was a location right in Kalamazoo.
Oh, wow.
I went to my supervisor, said, hypothetically speaking, I want to move back to my hometown. Would I be able to transfer to that? Yeah. Called there, said, yeah, you could transfer. That is what happened. We started to develop a plan. I left on a Friday, started work on a Monday. Really the exact same position, just different colleagues and a different building. But
That's awesome.
everything lined up to say, yeah, this is the time, go ahead. So she was able to start kindergarten here.
That's awesome. And so now fast forward, what was the deciding point, or at what point did you say, okay, this is it. I'm starting my own business. I'm starting Fab. Here we go. This is it.
So I come from a family who, they're all business owners. My dad was a business owner with his brothers. My grandpa was. I do feel like some of it's in our blood a little bit. So my sister is a realtor in Jacksonville and she's also a broker. And she comes up to visit. Whenever she comes to visit, we just have so many ideas. We're like, and what if we do this? What if we do this? We're always just talking. So she was up visiting. We were sitting on our back patio, and it was right before COVID, and we're just talking about all sorts of stuff. We're like, let's just start it. Let's just go on and let's start the LLC right now. Let's get online. Let's pick a name. So we start going back and forth, and you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know okay, well, here's the steps you have to do. If it was laid out, or if you really did, maybe you would do it a little sooner. But I'm like, well, I guess let's just pick a name, right? Let's just go start there. So on my back porch, that's where we were going back and forth with different names, and we came up with a play on words. We want to do this, beauty bar, whatever, fab, face, body, fab, face, and body. Yeah, so that's where we developed the name, and then from there it was, I should go back a little bit. So I did the training. I knew I wanted to do it. Everything has to kind of be the right time, right? You want to do something, it's just, your kids are young or you're just busy. So I was in school getting my master's, and my kids are a little bit older. They can take themselves to the bathroom. And feel like, wow, they can buckle their own seatbelt. This is life-changing.
It's a big point.
I got all sorts of time now. I can do things. So I was in school to become a nurse practitioner, and I started just looking at some more of the autonomy and stuff that you can do when you have a higher degree, get a little bit more independence, practice independently, what you can do in the state of Michigan. And I decided to go and take my aesthetic injecting course. And that is just a weekend, and actually get certified in all of your injecting. And when you're there, they really motivate you to, next step is, find a physician, set up your account, start ordering, and then start marketing the shit yourself. Tell everybody, this is what I'm doing, and start practicing on people. So I did that, and then when I went to go set up my account and everything, I felt like, man, if I'm going to do this, I don't want people to think I'm just some fluff. I'm just like coming in and like got a needle in my hand, like, who is this girl? So I'm like, I want to like start an LLC and then like make cards and present myself a little bit more seriously. This isn't just a side hustle. Like I really do love this. I want people to feel confident that I'm gonna take care of them. This is my cell phone number because we're mobile and I'm not in office. I want you to contact me if you have any problems. So after I took that course, then I really started feeling like, okay, but I don't just want to go out there and be fluffy. So that's when developed LLC, started looking into more of like the regulations. I want to be compliant. What do I got to do with the state of Michigan? Can I have, a sharps container? How do I dispose of this? Like then I started thinking, this is serious. I don't want to do something wrong with biohazard material. Now what do I do? So that just opened up all the gates of wanting to do things right.
And then you came up with the name.
Yep.
And then the name was what really started. And then how did you figure out like location and then what you were going to offer?
Yep.
How did that come about?
So people that I've worked for, I've come across really amazing people. The place I was working at the time, you have to have an office space in order to do this. You have to have a place to ship medical supplies. You can't just set up an account and say, I'll ship to my front door these medical supplies. So the place where I worked at the time, they let me use basically room rent off hours. So on my lunch, 12 to 1 when the office would close, I'd have clients coming in for Botox. I'd be like, hey, just turn the lights off. I'll grab them at the front door. Like grabbing people on lunch. And then after hours, I would do that. So they let me use that space, which was extremely generous for shipping and to get started and to use it because you don't just come out busy, And then it got to a point where I was doing enough mobile and I was seeing enough people in office, really just on my off hours, where I thought, man, I think it's time I need to get my own space. I think there's enough clients to support that. So that's when I looked at different locations, trying to find kind of like a room, just my own space. Came across a space where I thought was perfect, and I really had to talk the guy who owned the building, and he's like, well, we have this room in the back. We got this down here. I'm like, I don't want that room in the back. What about this spot up here? Well, it's being used for this. I'm like, can they move? Because I want that spot. Can I, like, what does that spot bring in for you? Let's have that spot. So that's when I found our first actual brick and mortar location, which turned out to be an awesome stepping stone for us. But it wasn't nothing too fast. It was just kind of grinding, and like you get a little nervous. Then you have your own space. You got to pay rent. There's certain overhead that comes. So kept everything super low overhead at first, as much as I could with staying compliant. And then once I felt like I had enough clients, at least to float that, thought the only way I'm going to grow is to kind of go outside this little box. So that was when we looked for our own brick and mortar space.
And so tell me, what were some of the challenges that you first encountered when you first started? What were some of the biggest obstacles that you had to overcome?
I think really the biggest obstacle, this might sound a little cliche, but really yourself is your biggest obstacle, always. When I look back at it, and you think like, well, what would you tell yourself now? I'd say like, kind of go for it. You have to not be afraid of risk and not be afraid to fail, not be afraid to hear the word no when you ask. Like, what's the worst that they're going to say? No. So I really feel like that's my biggest obstacle was just any type of feeling like, well, what if we get in there and we can't pay the rent? Thinking of what's the backup plan? What's this? What's that? There was little obstacles. I don't consider them obstacles. Like maybe there's a space that didn't work out, or then that rent is, there's a beautiful space, but the rent's ridiculous. And you're like, well, I can't do that, but it's not really an obstacle. It's just kind of a different path. It just opens the door to kind of a different way. It makes you think a little differently. But in general, my own obstacle during that time was just kind of self-doubt, probably.
That's good. So you, and if I might be incorrect on this, but at first you were leasing a space,
Mm-hmm.
and then you end up buying your own building, right? Is that
Yep.
correct? So tell me, how did that come about? What are the benefits of owning your own building compared to leasing? Tell me about how that all evolved.
Yeah. In general, I looked at like everything, like a car or a house. I'm thinking this much in rent. It really got me thinking when we would do renovations to the space. I put a huge amount of renovations because although it's a space that I rent, it's still a reflection of the business and what I wanted to portray to the community of, I didn't want them to come into a little dark, tiny room. I wanted it to be a beautiful space. So really invested a lot in the renovations and that. That was my first eye-opener. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't even own this building. And I just put all this money into something that's not mine. And then I start researching a little bit about pros and cons, benefits of it. So then you start to navigate around, talking to other people who are business owners and maybe having another LLC and then you rent it back from yourself, and having certain types of financial benefit in that way, certain write-offs, certain things you can do. You still pay rent, but you're paying to an LLC. You know, there's just a lot of different things that you don't know, and if you don't know. So talking to other people in the industry and other business owners, I just really started to get the wheels turning, like, okay, well, I'm going to be paying this much. Why not have a piece of commercial property, have a space that's bigger that we can grow.
And pay yourself rent, which I love that about when you did that. You know, from afar, I was watching, and I thought, man, that's I talk to business owners all the time, and just in just different areas, even first time home buyers. If you don't have kids, especially if you're single, house hacking, buying a house that you also maybe a duplex, you can rent it out. You're not paying the full mortgage, and in this sense too, instead of paying a lease, paying someone else's mortgage, you're paying your mortgage with the business or what you'd be paying the lease space. So I love that. I love that strategy for your business. And I especially with commercial real estate market being down, where if you're in that industry and you're able to get a better deal on what you traditionally would have been able to get on commercial real estate, I mean, it really makes a lot of sense. So I love that business plan that you have there. So tell me about how your services. Tell me a little bit about your background as a nurse, how they influence the services that you would have in aesthetics and in a medical spot. So tell me a little bit first about, like, give me a rundown of your services that you have and a little bit about those services.
Yeah. Initially, when I started, it was really just aesthetic. I'm mobile, and really what I did was just kind of Botox and fillers. Kind of just the basic, what you can do when you're going mobile. You don't spend a ton of time with people when you're just kind of in that kind of party setting, or at a different salon or spa that's not your own intimate space. So it was really just more injectables. I think having, being a nurse and then having more of that medical type background, I really come at more of a comprehensive approach now. Look at people as a whole. It's so much more than just surface. It's so much more than that. It's so gratifying when you get more of people who've had a medical condition and has some sort of disfigurement from surgery, or acne scarring from a teenager. Now finally, when they're 40 years old, they decide to do something about something that has bothered them their entire life, or stuff like laser hair removal when people don't wear a bathing suit or get huge infections with ingrown hairs and they're on constant antibiotics. There's just stuff that's so much more rewarding than just the aesthetic part. But I really feel like having that nursing background, having cared for people when they're at their most vulnerable state, and then kind of transitioning. So it's not just, I'm here to do this. I really, really look at people as a whole, and how when you correct something that's been bothering them, their inner confidence can just exude, which is so gratifying. That's the best part. So I think just having more of a comprehensive approach, knowing the importance of safety, best practice, staying up to date on trainings and standard of care. That stuff to me is kind of like the basics.
So, and I can tell you firsthand. I mean, that's what transpired with my wife. From that was something that really bothered her so much. Poor thing would be plucking her nose every morning. And then you taking her on and taking care of that for her. Just one less thing to worry about. For her. And then I know there were several treatments, some different lasers and different things like that you guys provided her with that really, really improved her. I know she'd come home every time just so, like, you guys, not only wasn't even so much the services too, it was how you treated her, made her feel beautiful, made her feel special, and just and lifted her up every single time. So I know firsthand that's what I experienced with my wife going to Fab. So let me ask you this. So tell me about, how do you keep up with, like, I feel like it's an ever changing, and I'm somewhat new. I just started going with my wife here a couple months ago. But I feel like it's always something like new. There's new technology. There's new this. I joke, what you got that's new? Tell me about what's up. Like, can you tell me, how do you keep up with that? And, like, in the aesthetic and wellness space, how do you keep up with that? And what are some of the ways that you stay on top of those things?
Yeah, that's the exciting part, is that it's ever changing. Like, as soon as you get a little bit, used to something, I mean, there's always something else you can dive into. It's also a little bit overwhelming because in this industry, I mean, equipment is astronomical for pricing. They're high dollar items. So I get excited about everything. Every single rep that comes in, I like to talk to them about it. That's how I stay in the know. Someone stops in. We try to do at least 2 conferences a year where you're just learning about new aesthetic and industry standards and what new equipment. Like, I love that stuff. I don't say no. I don't turn people away. I'm like, if I don't have time, I'm like, can you leave me the information? I usually call them back, and I'm usually like, well, hey, you gonna bring us lunch or something? Give us some donuts. But I like to hear about everything because I love it. I'm excited. It doesn't mean that right now that's what's best for my business or financially that's what's best. If I could, I would just bring on everything all the time. I just love it. So and then I have to reel myself back in and focus on what's the vision for Fab, what's realistic financially to bring on. But I think just being open to listening. I'm never annoyed if someone stops in to tell me something. It might not be the best time. I just tell them, leave me information. But I want to know about it. I want to be in the know. This is brand new. It's only been out a year. Good. Leave me some stuff. I'm going to read about it. And then staying up to date on conferences, industry standards, and then being talking to other people that I consider mentors, people who are doing it. I'm constantly networking and just talking to people. What are they doing? And then listening to my clients. My clients will tell me what I need to bring on. We got TikTok and Instagram and all those things to fuel the fire. But they'll say, some things are just trends. But I start hearing about something over and over and over. I'm like, okay, let me look into it. Let me do this. I reach out to those people. We're bringing it. You want it? Yes.
I love, and I kind of I feel like, hanging with you and Mike, helping you out as a realtor and looking at properties. And, I feel like your personality is like, let's go. And Mike's is like, whoa, and so is Mike a part of that? Does he help you kind of stay where you're
yeah.
I can already kind of envision that and see
Definitely.
that happening.
Yeah, I'll even tell him before we go in, like, don't let me buy this. Like, don't let me. He's like, you don't. I'm like, don't let me. Like, I want it, yes, but I'm like, not yet. Or don't let me buy in this room, because then we got to leave the room and negotiate or something, But
right.
he's more of like the bulldog. I want like everything. I'm like, yeah, so excited, and he's more like, no, we're not doing that today.
Yeah.
We got to think about it. I'm like, I thought about it. No.
I can definitely see that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, tell me about this. So, and I can tell you also in this, so from a guy standpoint, my wife going, not really understanding all the services. What do you feel like is one of the most underappreciated and misunderstood services that you guys provide?
That was a good question. There was a lot. I had to think about this one a little bit. I think what's misunderstood is that it's just kind of like cosmetic and on the outside. I think the misunderstood treatments are the ones that don't have instant gratification. So things like microneedling or doing stuff like PRP, growth factors, things that are more of a delayed response, I think are a little bit like you got to trust the science. I use that term a lot with people. Trust the science behind this. Like, this is doing amazing things. There's research and millions of dollars that have gone into this equipment and the research with it. So I think something that people don't see it right away is a little bit underappreciated. They'd love to see, like, within that 2 weeks, like the Botox kicks in, my lips are bigger right away. I get like this new refresh look right away. But some of the best technologies, I think, are just the delayed response, a little bit underappreciated. Some of my favorites, like microneedling. Like, people don't understand, like, everybody can do microneedling. We do microneedling on teenagers that have acne scarring. And
What is microneedling?
Microneedling, it's a device that basically makes controlled injuries to the skin. So think of when you scrape your knee when you're a kid riding a bike and your body grows new skin, it heals it. So we take that injury and we apply it to the face, but it's controlled injuries. So hundreds of small little pinpoint needle points to injure the skin, tells your body, hey, there's been an injury. Let's turn on the healing factors right now. We got to get there and grow new skin and produce more collagen. So then your body comes in and heals itself, turns over cells, and you can really heal, almost completely resolve it. I hate to say like 100% ever in the industry, but you can take scarring, acne scarring, any type of traumatic scarring, fine lines, wrinkles, pigment, stuff like that. But you can really regenerate any part of the body. Face is most common for us, but stretch marks, other scarring from injuries, you can regenerate new, fresh tissue that your body will grow. That technique, goes back to ancient times. Something didn't heal, they would needle it. They would cause it to bleed. Your blood in your body holds so many growth factors, all the good healing factors, oxygen and growth factors. So when you bring your body's own blood to an area, it's going to heal it. It's going to help heal that area. So
That's awesome.
it's all about
I didn't
just
know much about it.
controlled injuries to a space to make the body do what it's already designed to do.
Nice. Okay. And so for instance, so I got an acne scar over here. How many microneedling times would I have to go to be able to get that scar healed or looking a lot better, do you think?
In general, we look at the scarring. So I would say 1 is a treat, 3 is a treatment. But if someone is severe, so you'll see an improvement after 1 treatment, which is awesome. When you do a series of 3, that's more of you're starting to heal and actually treat the area. If you have severe scarring or severe pitting, then you do a series of 3, wait maybe 6 to 12 weeks, reevaluate, do another series of 3, delivering realistic expectations about severity and how long it's going to take. I mean, this might be a process where we do 6, 8 microneedling sessions, and then once a year you do like a little refresh for it. So just depending on the severity, but in general, a series of 3 is an awesome starting point to get the ball rolling, to see improvement, and to get you excited about where you're headed.
And then the second one you mentioned was PRP.
Yeah. I love PRP. That's taking your body's own growth factor. So drawing your blood, spinning it down, and then you can inject it anywhere. And anywhere you inject it, it will grab onto the tissue and regenerate and create new. So you can put it in the knees. It'll rebuild cartilage in the knees. You can inject it through the face. You can microneedle it into the face, any type of joint. You can put it on topically to an injury. It'll help. So I think those, and I don't know if underappreciated with some of these services are. I feel like, what would be the word? Not undereducated, but that just people aren't aware that there's so much stuff.
Yeah.
So that's part of our job. It can get overwhelming, but there's so many things. So I don't know if it's underappreciated or if it's just not out there, not known about so much. People know, Botox, it's the #1 cosmetic procedure in the world. Most people are familiar with the name. They have a general idea of what it does. Like, it makes me look younger, smooths the lines. But some of the things that aren't so well known, I think could go into that category of maybe a little bit underappreciated.
Well, I was just telling you, I was half joking last time we were in. For me, for whatever reason, I got a B12 shot from you. I was in with my wife, got a B12 shot, and man, I felt amazing after that. I really felt, I can't really explain it. I felt like something was off. I was telling my wife, the way I describe it is I didn't have my gumption, working out, or I just felt a little lethargic. And then, so we were just trying a couple of things. I had done a D3 or vitamin D. I say D3 because that's my little vitamin. Took a vitamin D shot. Didn't feel a huge change with the B12 shot I did. So my workout buddies kind of joke with me if I'm really up early one morning, work out at 5:30 in the morning here in the barn, and I'm got my extra gumption. They're like, "Did you get your B12 shot yesterday?" I'm all about it. But I was telling you, my knees hurt, my shoulders hurt. I just turned 40. I feel like everything's falling apart on me. So I'm like, "What do you got for that?" And you're like, "Oh, and I didn't expect you to be like, "Yeah, I got something for that." So you were telling me about PRP. So I'm looking forward to trying that. It's something I'm extremely intrigued with. I was telling you about a book that I had read when my wife first got sick, and learned a little bit about it. So I'm excited about that one. And there was a third one you mentioned, microneedling, PRP, and don't remember. There was another one you said. We'd have to hit the rewind.
Dang. I think that's when I started to go on to just say it's more about what people aren't, what's not, circulated on TikTok and stuff. That those are the ones that maybe are a little underappreciated. They not knowing as much about it, not seeing quite the value in it because there's just not all over social media.
Yeah. All right. So what are some different trends that you've noticed since you started Fab that you notice in the industry? What are some trends that you notice? Is there things that are becoming more and more popular, or things that are kind of falling off, or what types of trends have you noticed in the industry since you've opened?
Yeah. Right now, the huge trend is the medical weight loss, all the GLP ones, and that, they say it's taking the world by storm. I think it is changing the world. It's unbelievable, and the research that keeps coming out. it's not just about people losing weight, which is amazing. People lose weight, they get more mobile, they feel happier, they're able to start moving better, working out, accomplish some goals. But there's other things with that. Their joint pain, their inflammation, autoimmune disorders are being affected by it. There's an antidepressant effect from it. Addiction, people are wanting to drink less, smoke less, eat less, gamble less. So it's really creating a healthier America. That's the huge trend right now. That's kind of a easy one for the trend where we're at.
Tell me a little bit. Okay, so I know little about it. Tell me, I know there's several different types. Mm-hmm. So can you educate us on like what are the different types of? I don't even know what to even call it.
Yeah.
GLP.
There's GLP. It's a peptide. The different medications right now, it's the amount of peptide that they have in them or what peptide. There's a GLP-1. One has a GLP and a GLP-1. The two main ones right now, and there's others that are coming out that I just don't know enough about to speak on, but the semaglutide and the tirzepatide are the two main ones. People are doing phenomenal with both. I notice if you have a little bit more side effects with one, you do really well with the other. So, but it's basically a whole metabolic reset for people. It's helping your whole metabolic system. It started as a way for our body to balance insulin and sugars. That affects the pituitary gland, which releases all of our hormones in our body. It has an effect on the brain and the gut connection. So you can dive so deep into this. It goes back to now you look at, the standard American diet and what our gut health is like now, the nutrients that we're getting from our diet. What you absorb is different than what I absorb. People get leaky gut. So it just goes so much deeper than just weight loss or this, but it's really kind of resetting our whole metabolic system that's been just destroyed by external factors, the chemicals we put in our body and are exposed to every day.
That's awesome. And so typically how do you decide when someone comes in and says, hey, I want to get on one of these, how do you decide which one is best? Is there like a gold standard where you start and then figure it out? How does that all come about? Because I know a lot of people are really interested in this.
Yeah.
This is a big
we
deal.
Typically, so the price point is different. I always try to give realistic expectations, and I usually use the term beauty budget with people. Like it's got to be realistic. And I tell people, $120 is a lot of money, but it's a lot of money if it's not even working. Right. $150 is a lot of money. Doesn't seem so bad when you're having phenomenal results. So typically we do start just with semaglutide. It's the most common one used. It's a better price point. And honestly, probably 90% of people in the office are just slaying the day on it, doing awesome with it. And the exciting part about these medications, and you can have someone come in who is healthy, young and healthy, and just needs to lose 10, 12 pounds, and they're a good candidate for it. You can have someone come in who's morbidly obese and has multiple other factors and other comorbidities going on, and sit down, do a whole evaluation with them, and they're a great candidate for it. So it's a wide spectrum of people who are eligible to use this medication. Typically, we just start with semaglutide, and most, one, because it's amazing, two, the price point is really realistic for most people to do.
And do you feel, and so, I have to imagine that this has really changed the demand for your services in the last just a couple of years. Remind me again, how long have you guys been open?
Well, the LLC is about 5 years old.
Okay.
I have been at brick and mortar about 4 years.
About 4 years.
Yep.
So say from, year one to now, I feel like this, in that same amount of time, and you're talking about timing too,
Mm-hmm.
great timing to be able to start your own business. And then I'm sure that had to accelerate clientele for people seeking that out. How has that demand changed in the last few years that you saw?
Yeah, definitely an increasing demand, which comes with increasing knowledge. People, it's just all the hype now. You can see it, a lot of people talking about it and celebrities and all the things. It's interesting because when we first brought it on, I thought, I didn't even advertise it. So it was more of just word of mouth because I thought, my vision wasn't like a medical weight loss clinic. I was, I didn't know, I didn't work medical weight loss. So, and it's interesting, once we brought it on, I can't tell you how many times I've cried in that room. We're cheering, we're high-fiving, we're hugging, sobbing our eyes out. And then I started thinking, dang, maybe I want a whole medical weight loss department. Like, this is just phenomenal. It's changing people's lives. So bringing out that inner confidence and tell you what, beauty is just, it's not on the outside. So when you just bring out someone's inner beauty, it's just so rewarding. So I've grown to really actually love that side of the aesthetic industry.
That's awesome. Is there an innovation on the horizon in this industry that you know is coming that you're like really pumped about, or is there anything that like or is there like the next thing that you're like got your eyes on being able to offer at Fab?
I'm definitely always thinking a little bit more comprehensive. So, we started off with more of the face, and then we got into more body sculpting and contouring devices and different technologies and machines that we brought on. Now we've been diving a little bit more into inner health, like vitamin supplements and IVs and doing the weight loss injections. So an area that there's so much in the industry, but an area that I'm excited to more dive into a little bit, I think would be, thinking futuristically, would be more of diving into hormones, hormone replacement, more balancing the body as a whole, bringing on the whole body into the equation.
Awesome. Talking about, so owning a business is not for the faint of heart. How do you go about, you guys have an amazing staff. I feel like every time me as a guy first going in, I felt like, my own self, we're talking about getting over your own self. I felt like going with my wife. I'm like, I'm gonna be a dude in this lady's business, going in here and came in and I felt so welcome. Your staff was so welcoming and so sweet to me. And, we've got a good friendship with Kaylee and knew you, but still, it's funny how being a personal trainer for many years, I would tell people when they come to gym for the first time, I'm a personal trainer, been a personal trainer for many years, and I still get little butterflies when I go into a new gym. Mm-hmm. So, and I would get the same type of butterflies going into Fab, but you guys made me feel so welcome. So tell me, how do you go about finding a staff that's like that and so good with your people and loving and caring for your people?
Yeah. I think it's really important to hire people that reflect your own vision. There's this book, it's called You Can't Send a Duck to Eagle School. And there's a paragraph in there where it talks about basically you can't teach someone to be motivated and to be enthusiastic. So you basically hire people that are already enthusiastic. You teach them to do whatever it takes to have the happy client, and then it kind of falls into place. So then they're willing to learn skincare and do whatever, go the extra mile to help your vision of what you want your place to be. So in that book, they were talking about a business that was a successful business, and he said, man, you must have a manual that's 2 inches thick to have all your staff like this. And he said, no, I just hire people that have the right vision. So I feel like just hiring people that exude positive energy. I mean, you can usually tell when people walk in the door, that first interaction, and then display a love for getting the best result and helping clients, having a really happy client, caring about that. And then the rest kind of follows. I'm not afraid to admit that I don't know everything, so I like to tell people when they're smarter than me on things. I'm like, I'm not afraid to hire someone that's smarter than me in this department. This is not my expertise. You're way better than I am in this. Like, I need you. So I think it just starts with the core values. You can't send a duck to Eagle School. You can't make someone and turn them into, you just got to hire that person that's got that core. And then it's really worked out well.
That's awesome. All right. So tell me about what, so far, personally for you, what is the most rewarding part of you owning this business, starting this business? What's been the most rewarding part? I know you love seeing the transformations of people, but I like, what is it like, when you go home and think about, man, like, this is my, like, what is the most rewarding part you feel like?
Oh yeah. I mean, every day there's some sort of encounter that just makes me smile walking out the door. There's a wide range of it too, like it's really rewarding when you just get an immediate result that someone's really excited about, or it's really rewarding when, like weight loss. They haven't been under 200 pounds in 30 years, and then the day they hit 199 and you're just cheering and so excited for them. There's a lot of reward that comes with it. I think, then going home to my family and them seeing that I love what I do, that's really rewarding for me, for my girls to, I hope I'm being an example for them to, you don't have to be a business owner, but man, love what you do so that every day you come home, it hasn't sucked the life out of you.
That's good.
Yeah.
Tell me, how do you, so you're taking care of so many people. You got a lot of clients that are coming in and you're helping them with their health, with their wellness. How do you manage your own self-care and taking care of yourself running this business in this field? Like how is it, do you stay on top of yours by staying on top of everyone else's as well?
Yeah. Well, everybody's busy. You hear every day when I'm talking to people, they're busy. It's hard to make their appointment that's 15 minutes long. It's too busy for this. So it's just prioritizing and then being an example. It's like going to a cardiologist or a pulmonologist who's out in the parking lot smoking before you see him. What does that make sense? So I try to more just lead by example. I love this stuff, and then it's so much easier for me to educate people when I've tried it and I know the side effects. I felt what it feels like. I understand that this has a little bit of discomfort. So I think just practicing what I preach helps me believe it so much. I see the power of a lot of the things, a lot of the treatments that we're doing, which is, it makes it easy to keep up with it on the back end. Like I want people to see, that when you put in some work, you get really good results. And then I also like to deliver realistic expectations. Like this isn't a miracle. We have some of these body contouring devices and people pay really good money for this stuff. And I tell them, like, you're investing a lot in this. You got to put a little skin in the game. You got to do something at home. You got to do that. So I think just, be a vision of what you want your vision to be. That's what I try to do. It makes it a little bit easier to balance.
And one of them is, it's the body sculpting machine. It's like, I remember my wife coming home and you guys, like I said, you guys take such great care of her, and you guys were, I think, maybe doing a promotional thing or let her try it out. And she's like, I just did 1,000 crunches today and someone squats. I was like, what? So
yeah.
Tell me about that machine,
Yeah.
because that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, we have the devices from this company's BTL, and the Sculpt Neo is the one that you can do arms, abs, butt, thighs, calves, and it's equivalent to about 20,000 crunches or muscle contractions. So what it does is it when you work out on your own, your capability is to take your muscles to about 60% of their full potential. When you put a device on with this amazing technology, it has the capabilities to take your muscles to 100% of its contracting potential. So in turn, you're able to build muscle a lot faster, just speed it up so much. So it's really great for people who are already really into fitness and health. It's a way for them to take it next level. People who are elite athletes, it can push it next level of something that they really aren't humanly possible to get that type of muscle growth in that amount of time. So it's just using technologies. It's pretty awesome. With weight loss, it pairs well because muscle has a higher metabolic rate than fat. So the more muscle you have, the more you're burning just sitting here on the couch. So it pairs well with that. It's a nice tool. You get results much faster.
That's awesome.
Nice little jump start for people.
That's very cool. All right, so tell me, so it's been about 5 years since the LLC, since you and your sister sitting on the back porch coming up with the name. What's the next 5 years hold for Fab and Angie and Fab staff?
That's a loaded question because I tell you, I get excited about everything. So any type of idea, I'm just like, oh, yeah, let's do it. I think right now where we are is such a good place, and I feel like the community needs and wants us there. It's really great. So I really want to focus on serving more locally and getting more education out. So just all these different technologies so people are aware that we do. A lot of people don't realize that I'm a nurse practitioner and I have background in pain management and can inject joints and shoulders and trigger points and things like that with growth factors. And so there's a lot of things that I still want to educate the community around us about. My brain always goes to, a second location and this and that. And I always got to reel myself back in, focus on right here and the people I serve in this community. So I think it's just taking what we have right now, getting more education and awareness out there, and then staying up to date in the industry of what stuff that is really exciting that we can bring on. But I'm looking forward to just, within this 30-mile radius that we live and people being more aware that we're there and starting to recognize Fab Face and Body and what we can do and how much we can help.
That's awesome. Tell me, what is your favorite service that you guys provide? Like, what is the one, like, if every other service you only got to pick one, what would be the one that you'd be like, all right, this is the one we're gonna rock with?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. I'm a sucker for immediate gratification because right there you're getting almost instant results. So I think something like facial balancing with filler, where you get like this immediate difference. You take a picture when you're done 30 minutes later, and it's this transformation, and they feel really great about it. So I love immediate gratification. But lately, I feel like weight loss is super rewarding because now we've been doing it for a period of time. We have a gal who just, had a big milestone birthday. So since she started with us, she's down 90 pounds.
Wow.
And I mean, we've cried together so many times, but that type of stuff is so rewarding,
life-changing.
So I mean, I love it all. That's why I'm in this industry. Instant gratification gives you a little boost up, but right now I feel like these more longevity ones are really hitting the heartstrings hard, and I think that'd probably be more of like the medical weight loss type of things.
You go from day changing, week changing to like life changing.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What legacy or impact do you hope to leave with your medical spa on the industry, for your family and the community? What's the legacy you'd like to create with what you're doing?
Yeah, I definitely an importance on, safety and quality of care. I feel like is really important. I never want to get to a point where we just start growing and throwing out different locations and things fall to the wayside. So I want, when people hear our name, to have a really positive, something to say positive, because really there's something for everyone, like a vitamin injection. It's not all about just Botox and fillers, but and then knowing that it's top of the industry standard, that our staff is super educated, that we pride ourselves in doing continuing education and providing really safe treatments and the best, most innovative treatments. So I feel like just getting that name recognition out there about, when people ask, where do you go for this? Oh, you go to Fab. Like, no doubt about it. They're the best. They do everything right. They're the place to be. So I feel like just leaving that mark on, we're not going to cut corners. We're going to do things right. And we want people to be happy. I love when people are happy, and we want good client satisfaction, and we do things right to make that happen.
That's awesome. And from a guy standpoint, where, I mean, I've never done Botox. I call it Botox or anything like that. But again, like, I wasn't aware of a lot of the services for guys that might be watching the show. What are some services that you feel like you provide that are underutilized by men? Like, what's this ratio of women to men clients? Let me ask you that first.
It's definitely a female-dominated clientele that we have. It's interesting, just a little comparative. So I started hunting when I was 30. I started hunting with my dad. In general, I feel like that's a little bit more male-dominated, But once I started, I'm like, this is what you got. This is amazing. I love going to deer camp. This is fun. Once guys come in, then they're like, that's what you've been doing? This is awesome. No
So
wonder
true.
you love coming here. So some of the main services for men, I would say, these really like life-changing ones, laser hair removal is amazing. I mean, we have men that come in that say their wives have been shaving their backs for them for 25 years. And they're finally coming in and they're like, that's not for me, man. That's my wife. It's embarrassing. She's been shaving my back for 20 years. So, or the beard line that scratches up their shirt or gets rubbed on their shirt and they're getting all these ingrown hairs. We have people who have hair loss. They laser hair just their whole head, make it bald so they're not, patching in these patchy areas. So I think laser hair removal is probably a big one for guys. We do gentlemen's facials, which usually once they have them, they come out and they're like, now I get why she's here. This is amazing, nice and relaxing. And then medical weight loss. Medical weight loss it's pretty split. I mean, definitely still female dominated, but in general about 90-10 with aesthetic services. Medical weight loss is probably like 60-40. We have a lot of men coming in for that.
Very cool. I've never had a gentleman's facial. I'm gonna have to check that out for sure. And honestly, I didn't even know you could do that for your head, because I just had a closing on a house yesterday. And I was a little bit in a hurry, so I was shaving my head because I still straight razor it every day. Clip it, bleeding, just bleeding at the closing table.
Yeah. Hairlines, the beard line, we make a nice straight beard line so you're not having to shave down there. Ears, full body. Those areas I feel like for men are probably our hottest.
Very interesting. So going back to this, you talked about, you come from a family of entrepreneurs. So I want to kind of ask you about that. At what point did you feel like, did you at a younger age ever feel like I want to be an entrepreneur? I want to be my own business owner. Was it just something that just kind of happened naturally? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I know. So from a young age, I knew I wanted to be a nurse. 100%. I never wanted to do anything other than nursing. So I'm pretty blessed in that aspect because I know there's so many teens and, kids in high school that are trying to figure out what they're going to do. And I remember I was about 10 years old and I started really wanting to be a nurse. And I never veered from that. So I think that's just that caring for people aspect. And I definitely knew I wanted to do that. I didn't know at a young age that I wanted to be a business owner. I just knew what I liked and what drove me and my interest. And I was used to seeing certain work ethic with my family, that hard work and that grit and grind. My brother's a business owner. My sister's a business owner. My brother is one who talked to me, early on as I'm doing things. He'd always tell me, like, dream bigger. Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? It didn't matter if I told him I was going to be president in 5 years. He'd be like, you got to dream a little bit bigger, Ange. Like, go a little bigger. So it's so
Well, I
funny.
need a
That's
brother
like
like
that.
that.
Oh my gosh, it's like that big brother mentality. I'm like, I'm doing great. Like, I'm a nurse practitioner, and he's like, yeah, but you got to dream bigger. Like, what's that? So, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say it fell into place because that just makes it sound so like that there's not so much thought and effort and grind that goes into it. But I was surrounded by people that helped push me into that place. I knew what I loved, and then every job that I've done, I would love to have myself as an employee. Like I'm really hardworking, and just the more you find your love, and then I start pushing like, hey, there was other places I wanted to work that I tried. I'm like, hey, bring me on as an aesthetic injector. I got a lot of no's. No, we don't want that. You don't have an experience. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna start doing all this. Create an LLC and then start doing this mobile. Like I'm just gonna tell everybody. Start doing it. Tell everybody. Like, let me do it. I love this. I'm trained. So it took me a path, but I didn't start off saying, yes, I want to be a business owner and this is what I'm going to do. I just knew what I loved and then kept pushing forward to that.
That's awesome. Were there any like key moments or decisions that you made that you felt like really propelled the business forward? Because to be honest, from afar, standing back, I feel like I heard Angie, Angie's doing like a party or a mobile thing. So the next thing I know, Angie's got a business called Fab. Next thing I know, you had bought a building. I mean, it felt from the outside looking in, I feel like it happened really fast. Again, it's 5 years. That's not that fast, but from afar, that's what it felt like. Were there any like key moments that you felt like were like propellers to making this go to the way that it has?
Yeah, there's definitely times that then you stop and you go, okay, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be. Little things like when they agreed to let me have that first rental space, I had to push for it. I thought, oh, okay, good. Like now I got that space. Like there's a moment like, okay, this is perfect. Our initial grand opening when we had that first space inside the fitness center was, I talk about it all the time. My dad tells the story all the time. We did we were open, and then you pick a grand opening date, which is really a couple months after your doors are open, so you're working out the kinks. And that grand opening day, we had a phenomenal day. And then the last client of the day just heard about us through word of mouth that we were there. She came in, and we did a full facial evaluation. I made a lot of recommendations, and she said, all right, well, let's do it. And I said, okay, like, what do you want to do? Like, what part of the treatment? And she said, all of it. And, I spent a couple hours with her. We did full facial balancing. She was extremely happy. And when she left, I thought it was just like, you put so much effort into advertising yourself and this, and then like that last client of the day was like, it just warmed my heart. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to do this. We were so happy. She was so happy. So just little steps of validation. Or when I say often, all the stars aligned, like it just makes you feel like, okay, yeah, I'm supposed to be here. when I think about buying our new space, that building that we bought, the timing could not have been worse, really. My dad always tells me, if you wait for the right time to do everything, you're never going to do anything, Ange. And it's so true, because we had just done another renovation at our space, poured any type of extra residual that I had into this big renovation. We finished the renovation. I signed a new lease agreement, and the next day I went and looked at that building. So the timing, when you look at timing, it was the worst timing ever. I was like, this is crazy. How is this even going to work? And then all the stars aligned. I'm thinking, there's no way that we just put all of this. The bank is going to laugh at me. How was I going to do this? We ended up initially doing that building on a land contract, which was just a godsend. Like, I didn't know much about that. What is that? All the stars started aligning. I'm like, I can't do this. I just poured everything over here. My realtor says, I think they were open to doing a land contract. Okay, well, what is that? Tell me more. And it just is like, yeah, we can do that. Okay, we can do that. So when stuff aligns like that, you feel a little bit defeated, and then it comes forward, and you're like, okay, well, let's go. But also, I say what my dad says all the time. If you wait for the right time to do anything, you'll never do anything. Having kids, you're never going to feel like you have enough money to have kids. Yeah. Like, you got to wait till you have enough money and have enough this for that. You're just never going to do it.
So true.
Have a little trust, have a lot of faith, and follow your vision.
That's awesome. And that leads me right to this question. How do you approach risk-taking, and what risk you've taken to get you where you are? Like, still to this point, is that still your mentality, going into, like, offering a new service, buying new equipment? Like, how do you approach that risk-taking?
Yeah, there's a lot of risk. I was educated risk. So you can't be stupid about it, I mean, you look at, I always think, what's the worst thing that can happen? And I've told myself, like, what's the worst that's going to happen if this piece of equipment comes out and it's, that the community doesn't love this equipment and we can't, sell packages or get this thing going. I think, the worst that can happen, we're going to come take this piece of equipment away. Or, I've definitely battled that in my head. Like, what's the worst case scenario? And when I got, a roof over my head and my family and our health, you start putting things in perspective of, like, there's a lot of risk. When we got that new building, it was a big risk. And I told my husband, I mean, worst case scenario, there's a basement in that building that's got a kitchen and full bathroom and a couple extra rooms that aren't being utilized. I said, worst case scenario, like, this isn't going to fail. Like, we'll sell our house and we might live in this basement for a little bit, right? He's like, yeah, I'm on board. Like,
That's
let's
awesome.
go. So, not being ridiculous or stupid about it, but be willing to go out on a limb a little bit, and then just balance. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? And can you handle that worst case scenario? All right, let's go.
That's awesome. Let me ask you this. So being an entrepreneurial woman as well, not just, an entrepreneur as that, how do you view yourself in that realm? And I feel like you're such an uplifting woman, and so that's one thing I love about you. Again, my wife going, I see you with other clients, in this industry or any industry, have you felt challenges in that? And how have you overcome them?
I always love this question. I feel like we've come so far from, talking about being, in a male-dominated industry, or like in healthcare, physicians and, are primarily male-dominated. I just feel like we've come so far. I've never felt like I'm female, I don't have an opportunity to do that. I do think what people need to take control of is just show them, just that same, show them. So you've got to educate yourself. You can't come in with any arena, whether it's females or male big dogs, and go in that and expect to stand your own without the education to back it. So I think just priding yourself in that constant drive of, like, learning and being this, like, they're not going to tell me I'm not meant to be here, because I'm so educated. I understand everything on this. I've done my research. I'm here. And I feel like my biggest hurdle with a lot of things, I've never felt, again, like, a male-dominated industry is the big thing. I've met some ugly women in my life that have made me question a little bit. The only person who's ever made me question a little bit about what I'm doing, or like going on a little bit, was a woman doctor. And honestly just made me work a little bit harder. But she challenged me for really great reasons. She was a physician, and she would, sit me down before clinic every day and make me basically give a full report on things. And if I missed one detail, she'd look at me just like, that's it? Like, what else? So that drive of like, you know what? She was doing that because I was a student. I didn't know all the facts or the details. And ultimately just made me feel stronger, and then feel like I don't like feeling that way when someone's looking you in the eye and they ask you and you're like, oh man, I don't know everything about it. So that really drove me to, once you hone in on what you love, what you want to do, become the freaking expert, man. Become the one that people start asking the questions to. And that doesn't happen overnight. That happens with constant, studying and researching and love and drive for it. But I'd say that's it. Just show them is my best response to that.
That's awesome. So we were talking a lot about a lot of your successes in starting this business. Has there been an area where you've failed had a failure, but you've taught you a valuable lesson from that failure since starting in this industry, starting your business? Has there been like one failure that sticks out, but you're like, hey, I learned from that?
Oh, all the time. I think the biggest thing is because I love all this stuff so much and I get excited. And how you mentioned, Mike's kind of like the reel it in, little bulldog. And so there's been things that I've brought on that were more of like this fad, or we already had something similar, or I just got really excited about something. And, they're good investments you bring on, and then you just work to kind of sell that product and fizzle it out. So you learn from it, and you learn not to get so excited, or to learn a little bit more about it. That was a little bit more in the beginning. Failure is such that weird word because it's such like a negative word, but it really has such a positive outcome. That, like, I tell my girls, like, don't be afraid to fail. It just takes you a different route. Like, don't be afraid to hear the word no. Worst they can say is no. Again, weigh out. What's the worst that can happen? They say no. That's really not that bad of odds. Okay, you move on to the next thing. When I was younger, some failures felt so much bigger, or some hurdles felt so much bigger. I didn't get into nursing school right away. I was at University of South Florida, and I kept, I've had great grades, and it was just so competitive. So that hurt. And every time you hear that, no, you haven't been accepted this time, you're not in this time. So I just kept going and taking classes in my minor in psychology. Eventually, now I have a double degree, so I ended up graduating with a bachelor's in psychology. That's not a bad thing. That was just a little bit of a delay. Getting into nursing school, my first day at nursing school, the advisor pulled me out and said, hey, one of your credits didn't transfer. You're not able to start the program this semester. So after, a year and a half of like not getting in, actually a little bit longer than that, not getting in, then you go to start, you feel like you've worked, you're finally going to start the nursing program. This credit didn't transfer. Like, I'm thinking, how come nobody found this? Like, what the heck? Why me? So they said, you can't take this class and first semester in nursing school. Nursing school is rigorous, this is too much, too big of a workload. And I did not take that as an answer. Like, I kept pushing, like, who else can I talk to? Like, I will take this class with it. I will do it. Let me do it. Let me try it at least, please. Let me do it. They ultimately did let me take that class the first semester, but it wasn't their initial thought or response. It was definitely a hard no, and I was like, no way. There's no way that now that I've like finally got into the program that now you're going to tell me I can't start. Like, no way. I called my dad, my mom, just sobbing my eyes out. And they're probably thinking, like, this is just a little hurdle. It's okay, Angela. Like, to me, I'm like, oh, my gosh.
It's everything.
All I want to do is be a nurse. And then I look back, I'm like, that's okay. Just keep moving forward. Worst case scenario was it delayed things a year, and ultimately, can you handle that? Yeah, you can handle that. So you keep moving forward.
That's awesome. So, and let me ask you this you're carrying a big load with your clients, your business, your staff, growing the business. How do you balance having this business and all that you're doing with that, staying on top of things, but also your personal life, your family life? How do you find that balance?
I think Mike helps me so much with that, but communication is so big, and then not being afraid to ask for help, like not being afraid to kind of wave the white flag every now and then, or say like, I need help with this, or can everyone pitch in and help me a little bit with this? I think in general, sometimes motherly too, but then in my personality, I try to just kind of do everything when all I got to do is stop and say, hey, could you do this? That so delegating a little bit and staying organized and a lot of those things. But I think just don't be afraid to ask for help. Like asking for help is not a weakness. It is a huge strength that I'm continuing to learn about. But I feel like when you try to take everything on your own, that's when things start to crumble a little bit. So asking for help and then staying organized and to keep your brain and your thoughts straight. And then surrounding yourself with people that have similar vision, goals, that are successful and driven, that understand when you're, can't go do something or, that so you're not then having an extra external burden of, oh, I'm going to miss that birthday party. I feel awful. They're like, oh, we'll catch up later. Like, no big deal. So I think surrounding yourself with, people that understand some of the things you have to sacrifice to get where you want to be is super important.
That's awesome. Is there any advice if the now Angie could go back and talk to the young Angie? Is there advice that you would give, knowing what you know now, go back and tell yourself to encourage you for the future?
Yeah, definitely. I would just tell myself, like, take a breath. It's okay. Like, say, like, you balance out the worst case scenario of something, but, there's so many times you feel anxious or you're losing sleep or you're worried about, like, calm down. You don't know what you don't know. If things weren't scary, I mean, how boring would that be, to not get that rush and that fear a little bit. But, and then not to be in a hurry, like we're in a hurry to get where, just like take it in a little bit, right now you're mom, you got babies, just take care of that. Don't be in a hurry to get someplace, follow, what makes you happy, but keep your core priorities in place. Family time, super important. Keep God in your life. Be thankful for what you have. Find happiness in what you have. That saying, comparison is the thief of joy. Just find happiness and don't push towards something for the wrong goal. We're not doing this for a financial gain. You get extra rewards with things, which is nice, but you got to focus on, who you're helping, what your passion is, where all that lies. So my younger self, I would just say, take a breath, honey. Like, you don't know what you don't know. Things are scary. Being compliant with the state of Michigan and following certain policies and procedures and having the right certifications and all this stuff, you just freak out and then lose sleep over stuff. It's just take a breath. You don't know. It's like, calm down. Take it all in. Enjoy it. Maybe enjoy the ride.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's good. And probably, like you said, you got two little Angies at home that you're
Yeah.
probably telling these things to.
Yeah.
From that life experience. Advice for entrepreneurs. What's the best business advice that you've ever received, and who gave it to you?
So I stay involved with a lot of mentors. So I go to a lot of conferences. Anyone I consider a mentor, it doesn't have to be in the spa industry. It just be somebody who has, common ethics and goals and drive. It's really easy to get unfocused on your goal with all this external stimuli with social media and all that. So some of the best advice I ever got was block everything out. What's Angie's goal? What's the vision for Fab? Because it's really easy to get distracted. You're looking like, it's a saturated industry. There's med spas doing all sorts of different stuff. You see someone pop up or this or they're doing that. And you're like, gosh, do I need to bring that on? Focus on my goal and try to block out that, and then focus on what you need to do to get there. Also, use your mentors. Anyone who's young and who's thinking about it, keep thinking about it and talk to everybody. And reach out to a mentor. Ask someone if you can shadow them. Find out if you love the industry first. I wanted to work in this industry. I did work at a plastic surgeon's office. I told him straight up, I said, I'm in between starting my own business or working someplace else and doing this more like 2 days a week and continuing with something else in the medical field. And he was very fine with that. And once I worked there for a little bit, I thought, yeah, like, I love this. I want to be doing this 5 days a week. I love it. Let's work there. But, yeah, I'd say keep an eye on your vision. Make a vision board. Write stuff down, and don't let that get distracted. Easier said than done, but there's a lot of distraction. So focus on your vision, and then surround yourself with people who can help you get there. Ask questions. Find a mentor. Go to a conference. Keep educating yourself. There's so much free information out there now too. YouTube and Instagram. Keep educating yourself.
That's awesome. someone wanting to start their own business, if you could give them one tip of information going into starting a business, what would that advice be?
One piece of advice: don't be afraid of failure. And I would say, do it. Jump in. You know, I'm a big fan of always having a backup plan. I still worked at a medical clinic. I was 4 days a week, 3 days a week, 2 days a week, 1 day a week, 2 days a month. Now I'm still on at that clinic, you know, like as needed. If needed, I could pick up a day. I'm a fan of having a little safety net. So it's okay to work at Lowe's or Chick-fil-A or something. Do something while you're working on your long-term goal. Like never say, you know, I'm above this. Like work and grind, but then do it. Jump in and see if this little thing fails. You know, you still got Chick-fil-A. All right, you're still gonna be able to pay your bills. But I'd say do it. You know, if you have that thought, that's step one. Having the thought and thinking you want to do that. Okay, step one. Now, take an action on it.
That's awesome. All right, last question I got for you for the day. What's next for Angie? What's next for Ange? Moving forward, I ask you what next 5 years for Fab is. What's the next 5, 10, 1 year? What's in the future? What is your hopes and dreams moving forward? Was on the horizon for Angie?
Yes. So next level for me, I love where we're at right now. I love being in clinic. I love performing. Everything that we do there. I loved, you know, injectables. I love educating people. I think the next step for me is just taking the education part a little bit further. I would love to be an educator, where then I can go around to other aspiring injectors or inspiring med spa owners and kind of show them what we've done. So maybe a little bit of more consulting type. And I think just perfecting what we have, remaining number one in the industry, and keeping, getting more education out there in our community, so that when people hear the words Fab, face and body, they're like, oh yeah, that's where you want to go. That's where it's at. So just staying number one, continuing education, and then I would like to at some point work on being an educator for teaching others to learn to inject, because you got to start somewhere, right? You know, just come out knowing everything. So educating other people who might have a vision like mine.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you so much coming on, talking with me, answering all my questions.
Yeah, thank you.
I really appreciate it. That was fantastic. I think there's a lot of rich information there from, you know, what you guys offer, stuff that, you know, I had no idea about, some of the services. I'm excited to try some of the stuff now. So you got me motivated for that. And I appreciate all the wisdom you shared as an entrepreneur, as a business owner from your industry. So truly appreciate it. Truly appreciate everything you've done for my family, especially my wife. I can't thank you enough, and all of your staff. And just really, it's been a game changer for her. And I also remember, you know, thank you again to you'd done I think you'd done like a party in maybe a Botox party or whatever it was, and donated the proceeds to my family when we were going through that hard time with her cancer. So just from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for that. I truly believe, when you know, you've always been that good person to us, not just to us, but to other people, and that comes back around, you know. And so I'm thankful for you, and I love seeing Fab just continue to grow like it is. You know, again, I can have more knowledge now to drop on people and encourage them to go. But I love watching you grow in this business, in this industry, and all that you're doing. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. You know, you say that about how much help, or how much you felt help from that. And I give that right back to you guys, because watching your family and your faith that you guys have when you're going through such a hard time. I mean, I've hit my knees and prayed so many times when just watching Tiffany's story. So it's really, I feel like I've done nothing. I'm like, oh my gosh, what you guys project on this community and the power of God and faith and prayer of going through something like that. I think like, geez, I've been through nothing. This is, you know, what the heck? So to hear that, you know, she feels, or you feel that type of way, I'm like, you guys have no idea what you do to the community. So thank you guys for sharing your story and showing people the power of faith. And
I appreciate it. Mm-hmm. I think God, you know, through the prayers, God used so many people to help get us through that. You know, like I don't know how I could have. I'd say it like this: when we go through something like that, I don't know how people can go through it without God.
You got to believe in something bigger than yourself.
Absolutely.
You got to hand it over to something bigger.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're just a human being. How do you take on stuff, you know, without just feeling you can give it to the hands of something so much bigger than you? So,
Absolutely.
yeah, you guys are inspirational family.
I feel like God, you know, really touched our family. Our prayers were answered, and God used people, and you being one of them. I mean, in so many different ways, and continue to. I mean, like I said, my wife, you know, that's like a highlight of her week is getting to go to Fab and, you know, be taken care of. And I actually look forward to it now. I look forward to that. And now some of these new treatments, we've been talking about different things. So again, I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Real with Ray podcast. Please like and subscribe, share it with a friend, and give us your feedback. What did you think of the podcast? If you've got any questions, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out and make sure you tune into the next episode. Let's go.